Today on Nerd of the Rings, we conclude our deep dive into the life of Morgoth. In the aftermath of the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, a massive victory for the Dark Lord, the northern lands of the elves and men are now under Morgoth's control. Turgon, now High King of the Noldor, and his hidden city of Gondolin stand as the only reason for Morgoth to doubt his odds for total conquest. In the aftermath of the Nirnaeth, Morgoth takes his captive Húrin to a seat in the high places of Thangorodrim, and pronounces a curse upon him and his family.
I am the Elder King, Melkor, first and mightiest of the Valar, who was before the world and made it. The shadow of my purpose lies upon Arda, and all that is in it bends slowly and surely to my will. But upon all whom you love my thought shall weigh as a cloud of doom, and it shall bring them down into darkness and despair. Wherever they go, evil shall arise. Whenever they speak, their words shall bring ill counsel. Whatsoever they do shall turn against them. They shall die without hope, cursing both life and death.
This last I say to you, thrall Morgoth, said Húrin, and it comes not from the lore of the Elder, but is put into my heart this hour. You are not the lord of men, and shall not be, though all Arda and Menel fall in your dominion. Beyond the circles of the world you shall not pursue those who refuse you.
Beyond the circles of the world I will not pursue them,
said Morgoth.
For beyond the circles of the world there is nothing. But within them they shall not escape me until they enter into nothing.
You lie, said Húrin.
You shall see, and you shall confess that I do not lie,
said Morgoth. And taking Húrin back to Angband, he set him in a chair of stone upon a high place of Thangorodrim, from which he could see afar the land of Hithlum in the west, and the lands of Beleriand in the south. There he was bound by the power of Morgoth, and Morgoth standing beside him cursed him again, and set his power upon him, so that he could not move from that place or die until Morgoth should release him.
Sit now there,
said Morgoth,
and look out upon the lands where evil and despair shall come upon those whom you have delivered to me. For you have dared to mock me, and have questioned the power of Melkor, master of the fates of Arda. Therefore with my eyes you shall see, and with my ears you shall hear, and nothing shall be hidden from you.
As I mentioned earlier, Morgoth now has complete dominion over the north of Beleriand. He gives to the Easterlings that served him the lands of Hithlum, denying them the more fertile lands to the south which he had promised them. Many of the elves and men that had remained in Hithlum are sent as thralls to work the mines of Angband. In 473, a year after the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, Morgoth's forces attack and destroy the havens of Falas. Círdan and his people flee to the mouth of Sirion. In the coming years, Morgoth's forces would continue to overthrow realms of men and elves, though Turin, son of Húrin, and Beleg Strongbow in particular would cause much trouble to his orcs. In 489, his orcs defeat the pair when they sack their hideout at Aman. We'll go into much greater detail on Turin's life in his own video, but we'll mention a couple things as they pertain to Morgoth and his campaign against the realms that remain standing. Through a tragic accident, Turin kills Beleg, mistaking him for an orc. Turin then comes to Nargothrond, where he becomes an advisor to King Orodreth. At Turin's behest, Orodreth ignores the advice of the Vala Ulmo, saying to destroy the bridge and fortify the city. Instead, Turin opts for open war with the armies of Angband. Morgoth sends out Glaurung the dragon once again with a force of orcs. They defeat the army of Nargothrond and sack the city. 10 years later, in 499, after a life of deeds gone awry by the curse of Morgoth, Turin kills himself upon his own sword. This victory would come at a great cost to the Dark Lord, however, as Turin had first killed the dragon Glaurung at Cabed and Arras, not far from the crossing of Teglin. After the death of Turin and his sister Nienor, Morgoth releases Húrin, but the curse would yet follow him. Húrin travels about Beleriand searching for his kin, eventually discovering his wife at the graves of his children. His wife dies, and after burying her, Húrin comes to Nargothrond, where he discovers the Nauglamir, a great necklace made by the dwarves. He takes it to Doriath, where, in his anger that Thingol had not better cared for his son, he throws it down in front of the king. This would be yet another example of the evil and shadow of Morgoth having a far reach, as his curse would result in yet another realm's downfall. Thingol takes the Nauglamir and tasks a group of dwarves with setting the Silmaril of Beren and Luthien within the necklace. The dwarves come to covet their creation and kill Thingol, leading to the sack of Menegroth in 503. Just a few years later, the Oath of Feanor would rear its ugly head again, as the sons of Feanor, driven by their oath, take part in the second kinslaying in an effort to reclaim the Silmaril from their fellow elves. This would result in the kingdom of Doriath being completely destroyed, and yet another of Morgoth's enemies is removed. The Silmaril, however, would evade both the sons of Feanor and Morgoth. Elwing, the daughter of King Dior, is among those who escape to the havens of Sirion when she is just 4 years old. Meanwhile, in the north of Beleriand stood the one last bastion of hope for the free peoples, Gondolin. Outside of the hidden city, Meglin, one of the elves of Gondolin, is captured by orcs and brought to Angband. Morgoth promises Meglin the kingship of Gondolin and the hand of Eärendil, the woman he loves. All he must do is reveal the secret location of the city. In the greatest betrayal of the First Age, Meglin agrees, and Morgoth finally has the information he has long sought. In 510, as the Gondolodrim are celebrating the festival of the Gates of Summer, they gather to watch the sunrise over the mountains. However, rather than seeing light arise in the east, they see light in the north. The armies of Morgoth, orcs, wolves, dragons, balrogs, and other creatures descend upon the city. While Gothmog would fall in battle, it is an overwhelming victory for the Dark Lord. King Turgon, the Lord Ecthelion, Glorfindel, and the vast majority of the population are killed in the battle. Gondolin, the last hope of the elves, is no more. One of the very few survivors is the 7-year-old elf Eärendil, who, along with the others, would make his way south to the havens of Sirion. There, he would meet Elwing. Decades later, they would be married and have twin sons, Elrond and Elros. 6 years later, the sons of Feanor would once again be led by their oath to slay their own kin. In the third kinslaying, Elwing escapes with the Silmaril and is taken on her husband's ship as they sail to the west, in a stroke that would change the fortunes of the world. They come to Valinor, and Eärendil pleads with the Valar, and Eärendil went into Valinor and to the halls of Valimar, and never again set foot upon the lands of men. Then the Valar took counsel together, and they summoned Ulmo from the depths of the sea, and Eärendil stood before their faces and delivered the errand of the two kindreds. Pardon he asked for the Noldor, and pity for their great sorrows, and mercy upon men and elves, and succor in their need. And his prayer was granted. The Valar send forth a great host of Valinor, which lands in Beleriand in 545. Included in the host are the Vanyar, led by Ingwion, the Noldor of Valinor under Finarfin, Eonwe, the chief of the Maiar, and possibly other Maiar and even some Valar. It is said that the whole power of the throne of Morgoth is assembled. The armies of Morgoth are uncountable. The mountains rang underneath the boots of the Valar. The entire north of Beleriand is aflame with war for 42 years. In the final years of the battle, Morgoth is facing defeat. In his final act of desperation, he summons the winged dragons, never before seen in Middle-earth. The dragons are led by Ancalagon the Black, the largest and most powerful dragon to ever live. The tide turned, the host of Valinor is driven back, and their outlook is bleak, as so many of the battles that had come before against the Dark Lord. It is in this moment when Eärendil, wearing the Silmaril upon his brow, arrives in his ship. The ship, having been blessed by the Valar, sails not the seas, but the skies. With Eärendil is Thorondor and flocks of the great eagles. Together they battle the dragons for an entire day. In the end, Eärendil kills Encalagon, who breaks the towers of Thangorodrim in his ruin. As the host of Valinor retakes the battlefield and defeats his army force by force, Morgoth flees to the deepest dungeons of Angband. There he is caught, but being weak from the war, he demands peace and parley rather than fight. But his feet are hewn from under him. Morgoth falls upon the floor where he is bound once again in the chain of Aule. The 2 Silmarils are taken from him, and he is thrust through the door of night and into the timeless void. While Morgoth is removed from Beleriand, his effects are far from gone. As a result of the battle, most of Beleriand is destroyed. The wreckage of the war is so great that soon after, all of the lands west of the arid Luin, along with a central portion of the Blue Mountains, sink into the sea. Many of the elves make the journey back to Aman, while some, such as Galadriel, Gil-galad, Círdan, and Elrond, travel east. There, in the ages to come, they would face a new Dark Lord, Sauron, the lieutenant of Morgoth, who had fled to the east. As for the original Dark Lord, he would not be heard from again in recorded history. However, it is prophesied that Morgoth will one day break the door of night, and there shall be one final battle, the Dagor-Dagorath, the battle of all battles, a final confrontation between good and evil on the very plains of Valinor. Tolkien wrote many versions regarding the Dagor-Dagorath, leaving some details up for debate and speculation, including the idea that it would be Turin who would deal the final blow, killing Morgoth himself and avenging the children of Húrin. In the end, the lands of Beleriand will be lifted up from the sea and the world rebuilt, with the dwarves helping their creator Aule in doing so. The dwarves will then be counted among the children of Ilúvatar, and then shall take place the second song of the Ainur, this time with the children of Ilúvatar joining in the music, ushering in a new world. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters, including Tom DeBombadil19, Sky Carcass, Salim Rahman, Jim Limber Davis, Smorzerk, Matt Schultz, Zetrock, Gimilcod, Game Strategy Nerd, and Debbie. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.